morning, everyone, and welcome to the Water Cooler Hangout. Today I have the pleasure of having with me a friend and the owner and founder of Kaplan Copy. She's also the new author of a book called Instant Website Review, which is the easy checklist every website needs. Welcome today to Jodi Kaplan, who comes to us from some small town. Where are you, Jodi?
New York City. You may have heard of it.
So you wrote an e-book called Instant Website Review, and you call it the easy checklist that every website needs.
Right.
So tell me why an e-book and why you felt that this was something that people would want and need.
Why an e-book? Partly because after going to Seth Godin's Linchpin event, I was all excited about shipping, and partly because of a challenge on another forum. But mostly because what was happening is that as I was talking to people or answering questions on LinkedIn and other forums, I found that a lot of people were having the same problems with their websites, and they were help, and they didn't know what to do. What was happening is they had worked really, really hard on setting up a website, brochures, and getting traffic, but they weren't getting anything from any of that. And at some point, some people had even worked so hard that they practically memorized their sales copy, but they couldn't really tell anymore if it was any good because they were just too close to it. So I thought this would be a good way of providing an objective, step-by-step checklist to go over different aspects of sales websites and landing pages, and show people what kinds of things may be going wrong and how they could fix that so they get better results. Okay.
So when did you release the book, or has it been released?
It was released in February in a blizzard.
In a blizzard.
In a blizzard. I was just really glad that I didn't have to physically ship anything.
That would have been fun. So what audience did you have in mind? I mean, if you were to pick a certain group, is this apply to anyone with a website, or was there a particular audience?
Well, I mean, my particular audience is, small creative businesses, that don't have, that don't have marketing departments, people like writers or graphic designers, artists, software creators. And so, I mean, it could apply to a big company as well, but that's not really who I'm trying to talk to, because a big company really has, the money and the staff to pour more time and effort into it than a 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 person company can. Mm-hmm. They could go hire Ogilvy and Mather or something.
Right. Well, when you look at people's websites and when you were writing the book, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that really stick out that scream this needs fixing? I mean, people just don't do, maybe.
Well, a lot of the things are, as I said, pretty much the same. Is that it's hard to read. Sometimes it's as simple as something like the type is way too small, or you can't navigate your way around, or you come to the website and you see a lot of pictures. Or a flash introduction, and you have no idea what the website is about, or what it is that you're supposed to do. I mean, I've seen sites with flash introductions where you had to sit through a whole long presentation before you could get to whatever it was you were actually looking for, and it was kind of frustrating. And sometimes you couldn't even really find the button to skip it. I looked at one recently. I was looking around. I was like, there must be a way out of this. You feel like you're trapped.
I actually remember that one time recently, too, that I was on from a graphic design standpoint, it was fantastic. But I couldn't find my way out once I was there. It was like,
help, let me out.
Yeah, that's what happened. So you have an 8-second rule, I think, that I read in your book. What's that all about?
The 8-second rule is that you have 8 seconds to get someone's attention and to make them want to read or look around more. After that, they're just going to leave. especially as we just said, if you've got that flash introduction, and all they really want to know is, do you have the right kind of toner for my fax machine? And they have to sit through a long presentation about how long you've been in business. They're just going to go buy their fax toner from somebody else.
You call this a checklist, and that's what it is, by the way, for the listeners out there. You do have a number of pages here. Like, for instance, I'm looking at one right now that says, "Can you solve my problem?"
Right.
And what you're asking is, is from a reader standpoint, can you solve my problem when
right.
they look at this? And
right.
and you have 5 or 6 questions on here, and it's pretty simple to go through and figure out by just reading your reading your questions and answering yes or no, or it's not applicable in some ways, where you stand. Now, what happens when they see the no's? I mean, is it fair to say that everyone's going to have some no's?
Probably everyone will have some no's. In some cases, what you're trying to figure out is, are you confusing people? Can they find what they want? Is it clear what you do? Are you, if you're selling some sort of product, we'll go back to the fax toner example. Is that clear? Are there pictures of different kinds of fax toners, or is there a search box to find the kind that matches the machine that you have? Is it easy to use? I mean, that's what people want to know. Whatever their problem is, whether it's something like fax toner, or they want organic dog food, or their website doesn't get any sales, or whatever it is, they want to know that you can help them, that you're trustworthy, that there's a solution to this problem that they're having.
Well, how do you recommend that people learn things like, how long people stay on their sites, or just, some of the analytics? What is there a method that you endorse?
You can use Google Analytics to see how long people are staying on your site and what pages they're looking at, and to follow them as they go through. So that's a useful tool, and it's free. You just have to install a little piece of code on your website. You can either do it yourself, or if you have a web person who's more experienced at these things, you can have take care of it. It's pretty straightforward.
I think you mentioned something about you had a picture of a witch or Snow White or something like that.
Yes. I wrote a post something about the cable company being like Snow White because they had made some settings which were entirely about them, like mirror, mirror on the wall. Yeah. And I used a picture of the witch and Snow White to illustrate the post, and I was getting, hundreds of visits from people looking for the witch and Snow White.
Okay.
Rather than the idea I was trying to talk about, which was to think about what your customers need.
I was going to say, how do you fix that for people that are out there? I guess what happened then is you're looking at a big high bounce rate and
right.
saying why is everyone leaving my site here?
Why isn't everyone leaving? What have I done? What it was is that they were looking for X and they got Y. What they found from their search wasn't relevant, so they left.
Mm-hmm. So you also, I noticed, have a lot of links for resources on here, which is really nice. I think that's a fantastic thing that more books need to have, especially in the digital age here. We can get so much information immediately.
Yes, it's so much more convenient when you can just, instead of having a biography or an index at the end, or bibliography at the end, rather, a bibliography at the end.
You can put your biography at the end.
You can just send people immediately to get some more relevant information.
Right. Now, you have a 1-minute marketing test? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Okay. How does that work?
Okay. Well, basically what it does is it tells you to look at one of the pages on your website. It could be a home page. It could be one of your other pages, and just take a quick look at it and count how many times it says things like me and us and our, versus how many times it says you and your and yours. Because if you're talking about yourself all the time, then your marketing is failing, because what you need to do is to talk about your customers. So it's like, we can help you do this. You'll get that. You'll get the other thing, or, so on and so forth, rather than, facing in towards yourself. I did something for a nonprofit where they were talking about, all the research that they do and how much money they spend and how long they've been doing this and on and on and on. It was all about them. It wasn't about, the kind of results that they get through funding medical research and talking about individual stories of people who've been helped. It wasn't engaging in any way.
Yeah, and that's so important. You mentioned Seth Godin's name earlier, and a couple weeks ago, he and I had a discussion about the role of story and how important stories are to your story and how to tell your story, and that stories are so much more engaging with people than just putting up here's what I did in bullet points and that. Do you recommend using stories on websites? Or
absolutely. I mean, telling the story of what your customer did, or telling a story of how something changed using your system, or it could be a story that's a testimonial. It could be all kinds of different stories, but it's got or how you got 500 leads for your webinar in 10 days, or whatever it is. But it's got to speak to people in a way that pulls them in emotionally, rather than, dry facts and figures and numbers. I mean, those are important too, because people think they make decisions on a rational basis, but it's really mostly emotional.
Yeah. One of the interesting things, I think, is, in fact, I was speaking to a client just about an hour ago, and I don't know if you run into this or not, but I run into quite a few businesses that they've been successful for a while, and they're still successful, but when you ask them to tell you their story,
they don't
know. Yeah, they're so close to it, what you just said, that at times they don't even realize they have a story, and that it's a great story and it's a separate story.
Right. So
you sometimes have to teach people what their story is before they can tell it, and then everything changes. I think that can go on the website. And what's cool about websites is that we can change them very easily now.
Yes.
At least you should be able to, which is another whole story of people.
That's another whole problem.
Yeah. So, what are you doing? Speaking of being able to change, in an ebook? I guess you can change it because a book that tells people how to checklist for their website. I would think the technology will change, and that there'll be an opportunity for you to make changes. Or is that something you do in this or?
Well, I'm actually considering several possibilities. One possibility is a shorter interactive version where you answer, a bunch of questions and then get a score. So you can just have sort of an immediate rating on my website is, my website needs help, my website's pretty good, my website rocks, or whatever. Or another option might be an expanded version going into more detail about landing pages and finding a niche and why you shouldn't try to sell to everybody, and what makes you different. In other words, what your story is. Or I might actually expand, some of the chapters and make them whole entirely separate books on their own. But right now what I'm doing is concentrating mostly on, selling it as it is, and I just started an affiliate program, so we'll see how that pans out.
Okay. Well, what if people listening today want to buy your book? How do they get it?
They can go to my website at www.kaplancopy.com/instant website review, all smushed together, .html.
Kaplan with a K, too.
Kaplan with a K, like the test people.
Okay, so it's kaplancopy.com/instant
website review.
Okay, all right. If they want to contact you directly, what's an email address they can use?
Jodi K at kaplancopy.com.
Okay, they may do that too, because if they forget how the URL goes.
Yeah, it's a little bit long.
Well, that's good. And is this something that people can purchase? Is it an arm and a leg, or what are you selling it for?
$17.
Okay, not an arm and a leg.
Not an arm and a leg. In fact, when I was developing it, I was looking around and I saw something that was $97, and I thought that was just a little bit much for something that wasn't, customized in any way.
Well, I think it's a great product. It's a great ebook. It's also very well laid out and designed, and you did a great job.
Thank you. I did it myself.
Yeah, that's good. It's great. It's for this is your first time, right? Doing this.
My first, yes. It was very, it was exciting and a little bit scary to send it out into the world.
Well, now that you've shipped this, you'll have many chances this year to ship some other things, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, I've got some other things that I'm working on, so